So first of all, I gotta start off by saying thank you, God, and thank you for be able to see things for what they are. I know things are very obvious, but in that state of mind, as target individual, our whole environment is and our brain is just being manipulated, and this, as I think Robert Card said, it's like we're like in a state of hypnosis, where you can be forced to think in a way that is just so illogical. It is it's almost like mentally you have a mental logic of a mentally handicapped individual, and it's so embarrassing because you hear all the validation that obviously the things they do, they try to falsify reality, and there's people right now, contracted to make this false reality be true. For example, there's somebody making noise campaign in the hallways. They just got done listening to the obvious issues, right? We're a test subject at this point. There's no doubt about it. They're using this technology that can cognitively manipulate us in every ways, and the whole ecosystem is surrounding you to make you accept these cognitive manipulations. And manipulation are not only just in real time, but memories, and it's just control of thoughts and altering the mind is continuously happening. And they have this facade. Oh, it's so disturbing. And with me, because I deal with voice to skull, which is the ability to interact with another individual directly into their brain. Like you can hear the projected voices of people further away, remotely. This technology is old technology, but it's been around for a while. But it's Department of Defense technology that we, everyday citizen, everyday people, are just test subject to. And they have people they've contracted to implement these tactics that are so systematic. I just got done listening to like a 20 minutes, just back-to-back reality check, right? And with me, the people who's trying to counter these reality checks are very childlike minded. They are very like you look at them, but for me, I don't even look at them as childlike minded because some of the reality check for me consists of what has happened because this piece of shit that implement these things onto us have pushed individual to lose their mind to the point of killing. And not too long ago, a child died from a mass shooting because people like around me that are this contracted individual have pushed this man to lose his mind to the point where he was capable of killing even children. He shot up at places where there's a bunch of children. Thankfully, only one died. Even that's sad, but it could have been worse than that. It could be way more than just one child. But at least the other survived. One got, the bullet passed her leg, grazed her legs, but still. I mean, how many more mass shootings going to happen, right? It's going to happen again. But I've seen things for what they are, and they still try to make me accept these narrations and obvious manipulations. And I was listening to this podcast. They have this ability to project certain ways of thinking based on what you're listening. It's crazy. It's how they can recreate reality in other ways. It's the manipulation that we deal with. It's like we're like connected to some surreal reality. Like there's a non-weird, like digital reality where they can manipulate our thoughts in these ways. I'm listening to this podcast, and these guys were being funny, and this guy was like, I went to Toys R Us, and I sat there and stared there and looked at that place and reminiscent of the old days. And the podcaster next to that's involved, start making fun of this person. It's like, it's kind of weird. You just, you can catch a case there. What are you doing at the toys? You're a grown man there, just staring there. Right, it looks like you something's gonna happen, and obviously, what grown man would just go there and stare at toys? But he was just saying that the place was closed. He just brought him back to the days where he was open, bringing him back to a time when things, I guess, certain times in his life. So they tried to kind of bring that to me, and they're like, when I moved to this city in New York, I decided to, I left where I was because it was very toxic, but I decided when I come here, I'm going to try to do things that are healthy for me. Read more, get some fresh air, just kind of new page, new life, kind of enjoy life in different ways. So I remember moving to this place here. There was a park not too long ago, too far from my place. So I looked it up on my map quest or whatever, and I got there, got my book that I was trying to read, sat on the bench and started reading and at the same time, like anybody else, just people watching at the same time. You're just there. I'm trying to read a book, but at the same time, I'm not a big time reader. It takes me a lot of focus for me to read. So I'm looking at everybody, and at one moment, there's one. Actually, I'm looking around. There's some woman, young woman, who's like reading in the grass. She's reading her book. There's a guy who just looks very weird. I noticed him like quite early. He was just like sitting right across, like making sure that he's visible. You can see that he wanted to be visible. He was not just right, and he was just like standing, like sitting, like kind of straight, and like staring at his phone. Like, but it was just so obvious that he was like kind of position himself in a way that I make sure that I see him, right? And it was weird. It's like something about him is like off. Why would he want? Like, he seemed like just kind of like just like weird. There's something about him that just made him like very obvious. He was not there just relaxing. He was just like intensely looking at his phone and just like staying straight. And it's like he wanted me to look at him, right? But not because he wanted me to be into him, but like just like look, I'm looking, I'm doing something that I want you to notice. So I'm like, okay, whatever. And then out of nowhere, I see this little toddler, I think a little boy, running, and the father or the mother was running after that kid. And I'm looking at it, it's really wholesome to see that. It's just, I start smiling. It's like, that's wholesome stuff. And then immediately they try to change that. Immediately I look, then I look where the guy was, and I see him getting up, standing up, and walking intensely. I'm like, whoa, that's weird. But all of that seems like he wanted me to see this, right? Now at the time I didn't know what's going on. And by the way, there's more other things that was happening. I saw this kind of weird guy just like talking to himself, yelling, acting weird. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And I'm watching him. And today, they're like, I see you were staring at this kid, this toddler running, and the father chasing him. And as I'm thinking about it, they're of course doing what they do, manipulating the memories and give me stimulations. And they're like, no, what you're doing there, you're staring. The guy was investigating what's happening in your brain. It's like they have these gimmicks of reality that is so obvious that things are supposed to look a certain way. They are so gimmicky. Imagine if I'm like actually investigating somebody. Like, just imagine if I was going into like if I was like for real investigating. You think I'll be like, oh, look at me. Be like you'll be like somewhere away, kind of looking away from afar, not being visible. You won't be like, oh, I'm looking at you, just look at me. So that is on its own looks stupid. Like, okay, what kind of investigation? The guy was just like wearing some short shorts, like tight clothing. Looked more like not to judge somebody by the way they dress, but you seem a little bit on the queer side, and nothing wrong with that. But he just wanted to be seen. So that should be the first giveaway of what they're trying to do. They want to make it look a certain way. It's about a facade. It's about a theater. It's theatrical. But it's so gimmicky. These people are pure gimmicks. So, it's always been like a gimmickness. It's like, no, all along they were investigating. It's what? They do these things where the defamation is used. But they do it in such a gimmicky way. I'm like, you see this guy, this. And by the way, at the time, right, we know that the Department of Defense is running this program. They were passing this bill to try to limit the amount of child porn that's being trafficked. And you have this guy who's like investigating in such like a top secret. You just try to create some kind of like theatrical, as if like, oh, they're protecting their rating. I'm such a threat to children. So, oh my gosh, you see how he smells? Just the clowns. And now they make me think of that. And then they make me think, because at some point in this podcast, they talk about something about jerking. And they're like, no, I remember what you did as a child. First of all, at this time, I don't even remember this part of this moment of my childhood in middle school. I don't even think about it. But like, no, you see, we're mapping you as trash us. They're just trying to use that now to be like, no, what they knew was going to happen. They do the pedophilia type of torture. One of the tactics of defamations is calling somebody a pedophile. And so what they're trying to say now is like, no, we mapped it. We saw how something about you as a child then, and now it's like, and try to make me imagine in a different fashion. Complete falsification of reality, and then they act like, oh no, now you pay, you know. And I'm like, first of all, these childhood moments, this impulsive moment of a child, I don't even me myself even remember that of that moment, because a kid can do things like that. But I'm talking to people who have used these tactics to torture children. They burn kids. They suffocate children. They do harmful. They are the threat to children, and they work for governmental entities that have so much power on child porn that at the same time that this person was investigating in such a surveilling way. They were passing a bill to try to limit the amount of child porn these entities have. It's crazy. And I'm like, no, but they were prepping to start manipulating me in this way. It's all a gimmick. They do the same pedophilia type of torture. A man just killed 18 people because they're calling him a pedophile. And they killed a child. He killed a child. That's the same nasty thing they do. And it's foul, and you can see obviously what kind of investigation. When we look at me, when you investigate somebody, you don't make sure that person looks at you. He was like, okay, but it's what they typically do. They are low-life bottom feeders ran by pedophiles. And they do these typical things. And today there's children who have been shot at, who've been killed because of the same nasty things they do to people. Hey, we're investigating. You guys are the pedophiles, you low-life. Tell my target individual, do not identify with this manipulation. I'm getting a call right now to try to counter this reality. It's all a cognitive tactic of manipulating you and making you identify to a false reality. Stay strong.